are back. It is the second episode of You're Wrong, and Here's Why. I am so excited for my guests today. Bonnie Laufer, Scott Huver, thank you so much for joining me today.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, Bonnie from The Breakdown on Sirius XM, critic, reporter, podcaster, and of course, member of CCA, before BFCA, critic, marketing, public relations, social media roots. I mean, you've got a lot in your resume, don't you?
Yeah, I've done a lot. I know I only look about 20, but I've been doing this for a long time. So yeah, you listen, with the times, you just have to keep adapting and try to stay fresh. So that's
For
what
sure.
I'm trying to do.
And on the other side, we're talking to Scott here, entertainment writer, reporter. I met him on red carpets. I see him on red carpets when we both are on the same red carpet, that is. And then People.com, Hollywood Reporter, Variety, CNN. And I didn't even know you were at one time the bureau chief for Hollywood.com too.
Yeah, that's right. I was there for about 7-8 years.
Wow. Well, as you can tell, we have a lot of.
I am only 20, but this is what the entertainment industry has done to me.
I just assume all critics are just Benjamin Buttoning. So that's I feel like that's what we're all doing, and that's the way we're heading towards. So that's what I tell people when they see the lines. I said they're going away. Actually, what you're seeing is the post effect. You know, you wait till the pre effect comes back. So first and foremost, I want to talk about some fun topics today. We got some really interesting things, to go back and forth on. But first and foremost, I do want to talk about where we're at now. And when it comes to film delays, because there's been a lot of talk recently, a lot of new information. Of course, we talked about Wonder Woman. So before it was June, now it's August. Not an awesome thing, unfortunately. And then you have stuff like Ghostbusters 2, another one that's going to be pushed back. Let's see, what else are we talking about? Morbius, which was March 2021, is now July. And then Uncharted, the video game one, Peter Rabbit. There's a bunch of them that have been pushed back. Do you guys have any specific thoughts on how this is gonna interfere with the rest of our year, or possibly with how we come back into the world that is TV and movies?
Scott, why don't you go first?
Sure. I mean, I think, first of all, I think we are still going to see some of these dates that have already been moved slide back even further. I think it's going to be out of both necessity, and I think that there will be a little bit of a hesitation for audiences to want to get back into a packed theater. Theaters may even have to go back to what they were doing right before the more serious lockdowns went into place and create distances in the theater. But the true trick of it is that these movies are going to have to wait for a theatrical window, because the investment in them financially on the studio's part is so big. Like, they're not going to be easily shifted to a digital platform and make the same kind of money. That's sort of the punch in the gut of the trend over the last several years of big studios only making big tentpole kind of franchises. So I think we're going to keep seeing dates move on films like Wonder Woman, and I think we're going to have a pretty bleak summer movie season. And I don't know if those movies will shift into the fall, or if movies are going to be ready by the fall. It's a lot of things were in production and haven't completed yet. So it's going to be a very bizarre movie year.
Yeah, what I find really interesting to think about too is let's look forward to a bunch of film festivals. Now, a bunch have already been canceled or postponed, but I'm from Toronto, one of the biggest film festivals out there next to the Cannes Film Festival. The movies that we usually get are the, kind of Oscar contenders. And it's going to be very interesting, if we're actually going to have a Toronto Film Festival this year. I'll keep our fingers crossed that we will.
I love going.
Yeah, but if not, what happens to some of these movies that have been pushed that were supposed to open earlier in the summer? Will those be, movies that we might see at TIFF? I don't know. What's going to happen to all the potential ones that are being stocked up? The things that we see at the Cannes Film Festival that could be potential movies that we would have here too. So it's all such a ripple effect. It's going to be very, very interesting. And like we were saying, there's so many movies that we were all looking forward to seeing this summer. And some of them, even if they did go direct to digital, they just don't translate as well, like a Wonder Woman or, I'm a Broadway fan. I'm very much looking forward to In the Heights. To sit and watch that on my television, I don't know, so it'll be very interesting to see how the public accepts that. And the other thing I want to make mention too is the movies, like Universal has put The Hunt and Emma, things like that out on digital already, things that had released maybe a week prior to the COVID pandemic, but they're charging $20 to watch it.
Right.
That's a lot of money. I'm sorry. There's a few films that I didn't get to before and I would have loved to have watched. I'm not going to pay $20 to watch.
Well, this is a side thing that I did want to bring up. Is $20 a lot if you have a family and you're buying Trolls? Or is $20 a lot for the one or two people when you're living by yourself? I mean, so that's the thing. Like, how do you find that happy medium to get everyone? And I feel like movie companies are just going to aim for the high end because what else? What other choice do they have?
Yeah, I mean, listen, even if they charge $10, I think you get to rent it for 2 days. So if you have a family that's going to watch Trolls 40 times in 2 days, I'd say that's a good value for $20. Same like movies like Frozen 2 or things like that 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 your kids are going to sit and watch over and over. But again, if it's just me, you're a single person or one or two people in your home, you're going to watch this movie once and done. I don't know. I think $20 is a bit high. And if they went for $10, I think they'd get a lot more subscribers or more people buying these films.
Right. But at the same time, they're trying to figure out how to make that same money back. I think I was looking at the numbers, and the first Trolls made $150 million, which equals to videos on demand numbers. They would need 3.8 million people actually have to buy a video on demand to equal the money they need to make off a regular theatrical release. And I'm guessing home video as well and other things too. So 3.8 million doesn't seem like a lot considering we're all inside of our houses. But then again, I don't actually see the end result numbers either telling me, what is actually happening with how many people actually did Bloodshot or The Invisible Man, or, The Invisible Man didn't cost anything. So that's a lot easier. But there's other movies that are higher that you're like, Onward. How much money did Onward make after it tainted the box office? So it's going to be interesting when we finally get those numbers to know where it actually comes into play,
It's almost, I feel like on some of the studios' parts, like Disney with Onward and with Trolls too, it's almost a public service to make these movies available.
Yeah.
Because they're made there, and Onward kind of had its issues at the box office. So why not do the gesture of goodwill for your studio to put it out there for people?
Even for the next 3 months or something like that. Just say, okay, for the next couple of months, well, your kids are home or whatever, it's $10 for the family. Just something. Yeah, you're right. The goodwill, I think at this point, it's a must.
Yeah, well, that's another fight that I have with myself as well as other people, is the goodwill of companies and how much of goodwill is coming out, because people are automatically bastardizing companies if they don't do enough in their minds, and then kind of jumping away from it as well if they feel like they've done a good job too. So if there's somebody out there who's yelling at every movie company and every billionaire as well. So that's going to be a bigger fight for people with knowledge in finance and stuff like that, more than us. So let's get away from that. But I will say that I was a little bit sad because of the fact that there were a lot of great things that were held. Like one of my favorite ones was The Witcher 2. Like this production was on hold. And I am not happy about that at all because I loved the first season. Then you have The Quiet Place 2. I was looking forward to this. It was so close. We could almost taste it. Mulan, another one. There's a lot of things like that where we were just looking forward to. And then another TV show would be Snowpiercer. So a lot of those shows, and I have to mention this one last because it's just my favorite one out of all of them is Barry. So these are all the shows that unfortunately are just not an option right now. And so I was really not happy to see that list and how big it grew. And I understand it 100%, but part of me also wished that they would have rushed. Like it would have been like when the Writers Guild was about to go on strike, where everyone was rushing to finish writing so they can get stories ready, so we can get ready. So I would have hoped that all of them been like, let's get all this stuff done in one day so we can get it out. And now it's just the editor in his pajamas somewhere who takes care of it. So I'm a little sad about that, but I totally understand. So as we talk about these movies, and you talked about In the Heights. Another thing that I definitely wanted to bring up was, should we uh, should Broadway movies be available to be made into films? All of them. I mean, is that something that we should be looking forward to and saying, you know what, this was made well on the stage, and with the right director, it can be made well here. And I did broach this question, and Bonnie says yes, but Scott says no. So I would love to talk to you guys a little bit about this. Should Broadway productions be made into films? And so, I mean, if you look at ones that are going right now, that are coming out, West Side Story, of course, Steven Spielberg, which is amazing. That is coming out. And then we also have In the Heights, which that's what I was going to bring up, is In the Heights as well. Something that might prove Scott's points is, of course, this film here. So Cats. That's
okay,
one.
yes, there's definitely exceptions.
There's
definitely.
exceptions for sure. And then the last one is Prom. The Prom, which is coming to Netflix soon as well. So there are definitely some options.
I saw that one on Broadway too, and I really love Prom. But Ryan Murphy's taken that one on, and I have good faith in Ryan Murphy. I like almost everything that Ryan Murphy gives us. He really does hit us over the head with a lot of stuff.
Right.
I've had the opportunity to actually watch his new series that's coming out to Netflix in May called Hollywood.
Right.
Started off a bit like, not sure. But you know what? I absolutely loved it. Like, I hope that there's going to be a second season. It's such an interesting take on Hollywood. I don't want to give away too much because I'm really not allowed to talk about it yet.
Right.
But I can say that it is something to look forward to. But going back to the Broadway stuff, I think yes, if it has the right director. Now, In the Heights, I thought it was an interesting choice that John M. Chu is directing that. However, Lin-Manuel is in it. Lin-Manuel is very closely affiliated with it, so it could do really well. It could be a very good production. And also, listen, John M. Chu has a pretty good track record as of late. Crazy Rich Asians. And listen, he gave us Justin Bieber, Never Say Never, which I really kicking and screaming going to see that. That was actually not too bad. It was pretty good. So, I don't know. West Side Story, did we really need an update on that? Yes, it's Steven Spielberg, but I don't know. I'm a little hesitant, but again, it's such an amazing script, such an amazing music. How can somebody screw that up? Hopefully not. So there are so many that are coming our way. There's a huge list. If you go on to, just Google a Broadway playbill.com, and there's like hundreds that are in production that are coming our way. And some of them might be like, I don't know, like they're talking about Dear Evan Hansen coming to the screen. I don't know. Some things won't translate as well, I think, on the big screen. But if you're going with a big, giant musical and you have the right director, why not? Why not?
Yeah,
there's definitely a case to be made that the right director can turn any material into something interesting and cinematic and entertaining. But I would also argue that there's a lot of productions that succeed on the stage, and that is sort of the place that they were meant to be. You're never really going to know until you try to develop it for film to see if it really is adaptable. But like, I'll give you a case of something that I saw recently on the stage, and God bless him, I absolutely love Jimmy Buffett, but his Broadway musical, Escape to Margaritaville, is a show that is really for fans. It wasn't an especially big hit. It did fine on Broadway, and now it's touring around the country. But I feel like that's something that you want to go and sit in the theater or, and watch it unfold on stage. Whereas I don't know what else it brings in a cinematic level. It might be fun to watch a filmed version of a stage show, but not everything is really for the screen, and a lot of things are more comfortable, I think, on right on the stage in front of a live audience.
Yeah, and what's interesting too, now that we're talking about this out loud, now that it's always wonderful to have that live audience and the reaction that they give to the performers on stage. So when you have it on film, you're not really getting that, obviously, unless, obviously you're saying it with a big audience and they kind of respond and say, but you're right, it's not the same. There's so many moments on stage, things can go wrong, whatever, it's live, you never know what's going to happen. And just being in that environment, you don't know who's sitting next to you. It's so much fun. Like, you talk about it during intermission. So yeah, that has a lot to do with how you respond to a live show as well.
And is there a director that could have made Cats work on screen?
No.
Well, we were talking about
because the actual play sucks big time. So
but it's true. Outside of a song and maybe a scene or two,
right.
It falls pretty flat, unfortunately, in my opinion. I've seen it a couple of times. And the second time I should have known better, but I still went. So
exactly,
there's definitely some things that, don't get me wrong, they added some stuff, and we talked last week about the fact that they're looking at they were looking at fans who want digital buttholes put back into play into it, because they know the version is out there somewhere, which God knows how that even got greenlit. But that maybe that would make it fun. Maybe we can move it into the camp area, and then that's where it's going to make its money, and it'll live on forever in there. But in the real world right now, I can't imagine that somebody would have thought, well, let's put Dame Judi Dench, in a CG suit and see what happens with her. And I even brought up last week too. They were talking about Idris Elba, who got coronavirus, and they put him as Cats actor Idris Elba, and I'm like, don't do that to him. He doesn't deserve that.
He has better things to be recognized.
Much better things. That is not the man you were looking for. No.
Yeah.
That is not the way it should be. And so I was very, very angry about that. So looking at some upcoming movies. So we see that. We also have American Idiot, Tick Tick Boom, a couple other ones that are coming out too. So there are some definitely some big names that are on Broadway that are definitely going to come to the screen. So we'll have to see how those go. But, looking back, we have Chicago, Mamma Mia, Grease, Rent, Les Mis, Sweeney Todd, My Fair Lady, Dreamgirls, Sound of Music. I mean, there's a lot of stuff like that. But then on the other side, we have film made into Broadway too. So you have, Beetlejuice, Aladdin, Lion King, Legally Blonde, Mean Girls, Pretty Woman, Hairspray, Producers, Footloose. They all started with films first and then went. So it's interesting to see. I probably need to talk to some Broadway director out there who can give me the feeling of, does film necessarily always work when it goes to the stage too? Because essentially you're kind of relying a little bit on the love of the product itself, right? To transfer it over, the positive notion.
I'm so curious in good and bad ways about Spielberg's West Side Story, because he's taking a big risk of remaking a beloved classic film from a beloved classic musical. And really the main criticism you could level at the original film is that it's not as culturally sensitive as we might like it to be today. And yet I know that Spielberg is making an effort to kind of do that. I know he brought on Rita Moreno, who's in the original film, as a consultant, to kind of tap her brain as to what would be a little bit more relevant and culturally appropriate in his depiction of the Latino side of the story. But maybe that would be better done by a Latino director. So I feel like that one is going to be a real curiosity as to how it plays out.
It's Spielberg. You're right. I think that he knows what he's doing. There's no question there. Listen, you can say the same for John M. Chu's Taken on in the Heights, which again is also a Latino-based film / play. So, you listen, as long as somebody like Lin-Manuel Miranda gives his blessing, how bad can it be? We'll see.
So I feel like this is one of those things where, as much as I want to agree with you, Bonnie, I have to say that I'm going to go with Scott on this one. I think that it's one of those things that, as much as I want to say that every title should be available, it is definitely something that's going to be up to the director and the correct story. And I really want to say that no, all directors have the ability to make art, but like I said, as being someone who does enjoy, and I'm sure you do as well, who enjoy the stage, sometimes the feeling you get from that is something that just can't happen in a theater unless you're so in love with it, like people of Cats. Where you kind of just give up on any other opportunity. That's just the world we live in now, and you're very, very happy about it, So, but moving on to the next topic, I putting the Broadway stuff away. I would like to talk about another thing that is kind of very relevant today as well. Is should a creator's past film work be subject to their current or personal, future personal life? And this is something that is steeped in Hollywood, very much in the sense because of legacy. Legacy is such a big thing when it comes to what they're known for, the AFI of the world, and how much you look back, you count down and what they're great at and what they brought and how they changed the industry. And of course, before we get into the one name we all want to talk about, Mr. Harvey Weinstein, we have to look at the fact that the guy, as much as you hate who he is and maybe even what he did during these times, the projects he made include Pulp Fiction, Good Will Hunting, Avatar, Aviator, Clerks, Silver Linings Playbook. I think his first, one of his first ones, way long way, was True Romance. So there was a lot of stuff going back that far. So should creator's life, past film work, be subject to current or future personal life? Bonnie says yes, but Scott says not necessarily. So, Bonnie, if you could start off, why do you think that it is all up to game depending on who you are as a person?
Well, it was funny because when you had this question and we had to give you our answers kind of before, to prep for this, I wanted to press both, but it wouldn't allow me to do yes, no, because obviously it depends. And setting Harvey Weinstein aside, because it is what it is with him, and we know that. Another director that really comes to my mind is Woody Allen, because obviously he's somebody who I have admired since I was a little girl, growing up with all of his movies, being such an avid fan, being able to recite lines from every single one of his films. And then as we move on in the years, all these allegations and things that, that come out about him. And now even that he has written a book that nobody wants to publish. And I mean, do we not watch his movies anymore? And my feeling is, whatever he's done in his personal life, whether disgusting, whatever you want to call it, I'm not going to make judgment calls right here. But I'm still going to watch his movies. I still enjoy them. Do I watch them maybe a little bit differently now? Probably, because that's kind of in the back of my mind, like, ew, and there's all this written subtext in a lot of, you look at something like Annie Hall or just, he's always writing about being with somebody who's a lot younger, him in the starring role, his ingenues are always a lot younger. So it does taint it. There's no question about it. But I think you have to take that individual, like each person on their individual basis. And, am I going to stop watching every single film that Harvey Weinstein produced? No, I'm not, because a lot of them are excellent movies, you know, and what do you do? So Scott, what do you have to say about it? Because I'm really interested in what you have to say.
I feel like we're pretty much on the same page and just like minor degrees of difference there. Because I'm in the case of like Woody Allen, which is, a very, very prominent one, and yet still hard to quantify because everything related to him is about allegation and not necessarily a conviction or, some kind of sort of definitive proof of his character. And again, the movies exist in and of themselves. So it becomes a sort of a decision, like, do you want to sort of boycott that because you feel so strongly about Woody Allen, or do you want to set that aside and continue to, as you said, enjoy the films? There's a number of different people that it can apply to. Roman Polanski is another one who becomes part of that conversation. And I personally, in the same way that I love a lot of Woody Allen films, I love almost every film that Roman Polanski's made, and it would kill me to see those sort of like erased out of history. And I don't think that's fair to the art as it exists itself. I don't think it's fair to all of the other collaborators who worked on that piece of art. To take away Chinatown and say we can't show Chinatown anymore, because you know, because of Polanski's reputation, then you lose Nicholson's amazing performance. You lose Robert Towns' amazing story. You lose Faye Dunaway's amazing performance. You know, it goes on and on. Even Kevin Spacey, I think he was an easy person for Hollywood to want to erase because, like Harvey Weinstein, he had a bad reputation behind the scenes.
Right.
So it made it easy to say we're not going to work with him anymore when the word came out about him. But do we want to lose American Beauty from our cultural conversation? Do we want to lose The Usual Suspects? You know,
House of Cards. I mean,
yeah,
that
House
was
of Cards.
brilliant. Yeah,
it's tricky, and I mean, I get it. Like, there's things, you know, I can't hear a Michael Jackson song today without cringing a little bit, especially when I hear it in a public venue. But it's still, I can. You know, the music is amazing, and I feel like maybe we just need to like give it 50 years when people don't have to think about that side of Michael Jackson. But we should also never forget that side of Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
It's
you're absolutely right.
It's such a tricky thing, and with Weinstein in particular, he as a producer, he was something of an auteur, but those movies really belong to other artists more than they belong to him. So I would hate to see, I mean, he gave us Tarantino.
Right.
And I would hate to see so many of those great films be locked in a vault in the way that Disney locks away Song of the South. Is Song of the South insensitive and not culturally acceptable? Yes. Was it still a piece of art that was so popular that they gave a special Oscar to the main star?
Right.
Yeah. So I'm a little, you know, I know that they're doing that as a brand thing, but it's too bad that even for sort of serious study, that movie's not available.
Right. And there's a lot of those titles actually that I'm really interested to see how, you know, time looks at them too. And I think that's really the fight is a movie a time capsule? Once it's done, is it on its own? Do we push it out to sea and then it takes care of itself? It's its own island after that point, or do we need to look back and go over it? Because you know, you mentioned Harvey Weinstein, but there's a lot of other people out there who are celebrities now. And you know, one point I wanted to bring up is the fact that we've all interviewed a lot of celebrities, so we've met these people on the same level, on the same point. We've stood next to them, we've laughed with them before. So it's a little different, a little interesting to see. You know, sometimes we met someone and we go, that person did this. You know, I met them. They didn't seem like that. And that's unfortunately a lot of the people who work around them or who work with the project with them have that world as well. They have to kind of readjust too. So looking at some of the people out there, you know, Martha Stewart, Robert Downey Jr., they both, you know, had their own issues. You look at Tim Allen, who had cocaine possession, but he's the voice of a cartoon on Pixar now. Charlie Sheen, with everything that Charlie Sheen is. Mike Tyson, you know, went to jail. Terrence Howard, you know, there's a bunch of people like that. Matthew Broderick with a car crash. Jay-Z stabbed a guy. I mean, so, and we're giving awards to everyone. So it's just the thing, like, you know, who do we judge? Where do things happen? There's a lot of people who we're looking, actually, you know, all of us are probably fans of, who we're seeing, are they going to come back? You know, is just this comedian I love going to come back? Is this actor I love going to come back? And so that's one thing that I think is really part of this whole world too. So, you know what? I think when it comes down to it, that I think both of you are kind of on the same page here. So I feel like both you and Scott are right in this regard. So the last thing I really want to go into really quickly, and this is our versus battle. This is our convince me, is what I like to call it. And that is, are we done with the Aliens franchise? As they say, should we nuke everything when it comes to this franchise? There's many reasons for Aliens franchise to be amazing, and we still have a lot of great people involved with the franchise itself. But then again, we have also seen them fight predators and do a couple other things. So there's some reaching about for sure. So Bonnie, you say that it is we're not done with the Alien franchise, and Scott, you say that we are. It might be time to let go of this xenomorph. So Scott, let's start with you on this one.
All right. I feel that the Alien franchise is pretty simple at its core. And we have, in the first two movies, really gotten the two sides of the coin of what there is to explore about the alien as a concept, as a literal threat for these characters, both in a sort of horror movie version and then on a bigger, more epic scale. Everything after that has just been a reiteration because the franchise is so simplistic, and it's just been diminishing returns after diminishing returns. It's like, how many Friday the 13th movies can you make? And I think we so deeply love the first two Alien movies that we want it. There's a desire to get another great Alien movie, but I mean, sure, is there some filmmaker out there somewhere who may have an amazing idea and be able to pull it off? Possibly. I don't think the franchise has been managed in that direction very well in recent years. So I don't feel that there's a lot of promise there. And especially now that the franchise is owned by Disney, I'm not exactly sure where that studio is going to tend to it when it doesn't really fit their brand quite as seamlessly as something like Star Wars or the Marvel films.
That's interesting because I do feel that Disney is going to be a part of it, but at the same time, Ridley Scott has been the one. I mean, if you look at I watched the documentary Memory about First Alien and how much he pushed to make things happen. Like he's the one who made everything happen with his choices. With Yuchi was using H.R. Giger. Like he was the one who was essentially moving forward and pushing things to happen with his vision and the way it should have been. So. I do definitely have that thing in me where I wanted to give the benefit of the doubt for the filmmakers too. But as you mentioned, there have been points that the filmmakers have made themselves with what they put out that is definitely kind of giving me some pause too. So Bonnie, I guess let's go into this. So
yeah,
we're not done with the
everything
franchise.
you guys are saying. At the end of the day, I am a purist. I like original films. I don't like movies that have 400 sequels. I think, yes, enough is enough. But I don't know. Like, I think with Alien, I mean, the first one was, it's so memorable. Who doesn't remember where they were when that alien came out of the stomach? I mean, come on, really? It's just classic, right? But, and then Aliens, okay, was the worst sequel thanks to Sigourney Weaver. Okay, great. Not a great film. Yeah, and then on, they just start getting repetitive and stuff. But I think at the end of, people just, for some reason, just love this franchise and are just praying that with each one that comes out, please God, give me something good. Maybe if the property, maybe not even Ridley Scott, maybe somebody else took this on who's just a really good director. No one comes to my mind off the top of my head in terms of who maybe could take this on and give us something good, but just something original, something different, something out of the realm. Like take it out of don't go back to what was happening. Just give us something completely new. I don't know. Maybe we could have one more and give it one more chance. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, and it's interesting too because there's a lot of things that are involved when it comes to positives and the negatives of this too. Because as you mentioned, Disney is going to be a big part of that too. So what is Disney going to do in this regard? Are they going to reboot the reboot that we rebooted already too, or because this timeline? I mean, Covenant is just we've gone full circle, I guess. But Scott was already said that he already has an idea of where he wanted to go from there already too. And there, I mean, as we know, we watched the film, so we know there was some cliffhangers too, and there was opportunities for the next film to come about as well. But do all the Alien films, when you speak to what is it? Are we quadrilogy or currently, or are we up to 9 now? I forget.
Yeah, I think so.
So I don't know.
I don't know, but they're
too many to count. Too many to count.
Yeah, and so that I think that's probably it. Once you get to Jason 10, is he still Jason? Does he need to be in space? I mean, what's happening here at this point? So that's definitely a question for the franchise. Of course, Disney purchased it, and then is it just an echo of Alien and Aliens? Is everything just an echo at this point? Because we've told the best story and we've seen every jump scare that can happen when it comes to Alien and Aliens and things like this too. Don't get me wrong. Ridley is an amazing figure in the history of film, and I would love to see her come about. But I don't know if that's generally or necessarily enough for us to keep going forward too. Another couple points too. I would love to see more extension or a new artist's kind of jump from H.R. Giger's stuff. I would love to see that. And then I would love to see what the xenomorph can become. But then again, we've seen that. We've seen the xenomorph part predator and part alien, and then part is it the mother, and all these different versions of it. So it was funny. I was kind of looking this up, and I saw a quote from James Cameron, and this is what he said, and this is right between Prometheus and Covenant. He said, "I don't think it's worked out terribly well. I think we moved on beyond it. It's like okay, we've got it. We've got the whole Freudian biomechanoid meme. I've seen it in 100 horror films since. I think both those films stand at a certain point in time regarding to Alien and Aliens as a reference point. But is there any validity to doing another one now? I don't know. Maybe. Let's see. Jury's out. Let's see what Ridley comes up with. Let me just add to that, and don't cut this part off. I will stand in line for any Ridley Scott movie, even a not so great one, because he is such an artist. He's a filmmaker, and I always learn from him. And what he does with going back to his own franchise could be fascinating. Mm-hmm. So even James Cameron, who has a lot of clout within this franchise for sure, definitely has his own pauses as well when it comes to this too. So
you should listen to his own advice with Avatar.
That's a fight for another day as well, because that's a rabbit hole that that's another one that's put on hold. But then again, do we even notice it's been put on hold?
Who cares? Seriously.
And are we gonna need a reboot just to remember the story by the time he actually gets these out? I mean, that's going to be the issue too. And he's planned what, 3 or 4 more after. So there's 3 or more after this. So, I mean, I the last time I talked to him was at a charity event on it, and he's just touting the future of it. And I remember the words of him saying, "Well, I can explain every story I ever thought of in the Avatar world, so I don't really need to go to other realms or be part of other franchises anymore," which I wish would have happened with Terminator, but that again is another fight too. So
yeah.
But you know what? As much as I would love to see more of the Alien franchise, I feel that we might be missing, I guess, the last boat on this one too. You know, what is this going to? What is going to happen? So let's just say that for right now, I don't know. I'm gonna say both of you guys are right, because as much as I want to love this thing, I really do want to love this franchise. And because the problem is that I remember it so vividly, being in the theater, seeing those jump scares, seeing everyone, and it's part of a movie past that I want to love. But unless we find a way, unless Disney gives us someone to handle the sci-fi of everything the same way they gave it to Feige, the same way they give it to Kathleen Kennedy. I mean, unless they give us somebody who can handle these films and kind of direct it the right way, I just don't see the future in it. So unfortunately, I would love to see more Aliens, but right now I am very, very hesitant. And as you know, our movie dollars are a little held close to the chest right now. So they better give us something good, or else it's going to die in the same way this last Terminator did, which pretty much, in my opinion, killed the franchise. I mean, it was if you can mechanically jump the shark, they did. What were you saying, Scott?
I think we're going to see the Terminator going to lay dormant for a good long while. Like, even in the age of IP, I think that franchise is so tainted, and I think Alien is right behind it.
All right. Well, I want to thank you both for coming on. Alien franchise, I wish it well, and I hope that it can figure itself out. It has brought a lot of happiness to everyone, but at the same time, it has brought a lot of pain as well for all those who had to go through a bunch of things. But then again, I have talked to people in Middle America where I've gone to events and things too, and someone will tell me, and I've literally heard someone say this, that Alien versus Predator was one of their favorite films. And to me, in the olden days, I would have thought, well, that means that's the only VHS you could have owned. That's the only one you owned, and so that's the one you played over and over and over again. And so maybe that's the case, and that's all right. But in this day and age of things that come on in every different way, or you can go online to Vudu or YouTube and watch different movies, like there's more options out there. So I want to say that, any film can change someone's view, and any film could be someone's favorite film. So I'm going to leave that open. But until that time, you just don't know. So the last thing I want to do before I let you go is ask, what are you two watching right now? We are stuck in a 4x4 world. We are quarantined. So what is your choices? What are you watching right now that is making you happy? And what should people be watching? Bonnie, let's start with you.
Okay, well, listen, I want to get away from the Netflix for a second because there's so much on Netflix that I could go on. This could be a whole show in itself.
Right.
But I want to give a shout out to HBO. If people have HBO or HBO Plus and you can watch it, HBO Go. I'm back into Westworld. They have season 3 going right now, so I'm back into that. It's a whole new thing. Evan Rachel Wood is so good as Dolores. She's amazing. She wants her revenge. A lot of new characters. I'm loving it. We're only a couple episodes in the new season, so I'm really loving that. Also, I want to highly recommend The Outsider, Stephen King's, based on Stephen King's book. It was so creepy, and it is so good. Cynthia Erivo just knocks it out of the park. Ben Mendelsohn, such a good cast of that. I'm also watching right now The Plot Against America, which I am also really liking. John Turturro is in that, and another Zoe Kazan. So if you just want a little break from Netflix, and like I say, I can really recommend a ton of Netflix stuff. Try HBO. There's so much stuff, and there's a lot of old shows on demand if you haven't even seen stuff like The Sopranos. Just going back in the category in their categories of what they have from years and years back. So much content on HBO. So props to HBO.
Well, and there was an article out, and HBO released the fact that people are actually watching The Wire now. The one show they all said they were actually going to watch, The Wire, they actually have time for it, and they're all attacking it now. So I'm very happy about that. I definitely want them to see that. Same thing as Sopranos and some other great shows. If you have the time, please do attack these things. Don't get me wrong. I'd love for you to attack some classic Hollywood films too. There's a lot of people out there making, Gone with the Wind and Casablanca references without actually having seen the film. So it'd be awesome if you guys could do that too. But until that time, try The Wire, try some HBO stuff. So Scott, what are you looking at?
I have to agree with Westworld. Took a bold gamble on this third season, the way that they completely upended the show that and I think that's paying off in a big way. I'm really enjoying, as far as like a current non really bingeable show, but a week to week, is Better Call Saul. It's as good as it's been since the beginning. That show always comes up with great ways to just bore down on who these characters are on the surface and on the core. And then as far as like going back for a deep dive rewatch, I've been doing Community, which is on Hulu, and I think it's coming to Netflix like any minute now.
Yeah, I think it just dropped on Netflix now. So I agree with
April
you. Oh my
1st,
God, what a funny show that is. Really awesome.
And really, that show finds itself 2 or 3 episodes in. It doesn't take a whole season. That show becomes Community right away and is consistent throughout its run. I'm dying to see Ryan Murphy's Hollywood show. I've got it in my media account, and that's my next thing. And then to go really retro, my wife and I have been watching the entire Star Wars saga now that it's all available. We're watching it in order, and that's been.
I thought you were gonna show us, Scott. I was gonna be mad at you because you got the whole 4K Ultra HD box.
Yeah.
So
that's been the last several days, is getting through that, and so to watch that all in a row, to binge it basically, has been really interesting in looking at little connections that they probably didn't even know they were making at certain points, and other ones that have been built into it. You never get tired of discussing Star Wars.
Well, I have to agree with you on Community because people don't give enough credit to it. First of all, Dan Harmon, the guy who does Rick and Morty. So that's the way I introduce to anyone under 30. That's the show that that's where this guy got his clout to be able to move forward to this. And then you look at some of the, Donald Glover, you have Allison Brie, Joe McHale. There's a lot of great people who were in that who became, did you know Childish Gambino has another name and he was acting before Atlanta? Did you know that by chance? There's a lot of fun things like that. I even watch 30 Rock sometimes and I see him kind of come up because he was a writer on that for a little while too. And so there's fun episodes and shows like that, which make me laugh and go, it's amazing what these people have become too. And I remember interviewing him for Community and just talking about video games and things like that now. But now I don't think I could bring up video games now because he's such an artist and he's like transcendent with the things he does. And then I don't know if he still has that opportunity to be that geeky guy anymore. Like that's not even.
He's still pretty cool and pretty down to earth about all kinds of pop culture stuff. He's an easy guy to talk to.
I talked to him at the the Critics' Choice Awards. Probably Atlanta. It was like 4 years ago,
A couple
3 years
years
ago.
ago. Yeah, he was there a couple years ago.
Yeah, when when his friend went up to get the award when he shouldn't have gone up there. I remember that one. So yeah, we talked about video games a little bit then too, but it does feel like once you get to a certain level, like a Kanye level, you need to essentially deliver Kanye type thoughts and products on a regular basis, or people aren't going to take you seriously anymore. I don't know if that's a thing. Scott, you would probably know more because you get a chance to talk to them more on a regular basis. In their regular daily life thing. Whenever I talk to them, maybe even Bonnie, we end up having to talk more about projects and things they are doing too. So, be that as it may, myself, I am watching a bunch of different movies right now. Vivarium, a True Story of the Kelly Gang is another movie that's going to be coming out. So I've been watching that as well. I did restart. A couple different shows that necessarily don't make me look good. 30 Rock was one of them, and because I always need a show in the background of my life. I don't know what it is. Maybe you guys do too. There's always a show, and I feel like a lot of people do these days. There's the Netflix background noise of our lives, and that is the one that I can tune into and laugh and have fun with. But I do enjoy HBO Max. I did watch. I watched The Watchmen again. I was just trying to find some more love in that. I really did enjoy everything that had to kind of give us. I did watch a couple other stuff too, like things on Netflix which they just canceled, like October Faction. I enjoy vampire monster hunter stuff, unfortunately or fortunately. Yeah. So I tend to revisit or try to give things a chance to. I've also even tried to rewatch classics like Akira because they're going to make movies about it, and some anime and stuff like that too, because I do want to expand the world. There was an article recently that anime is growing extremely fast, not only in Asia but in the U.S. as well. And so because of that, I'm like, well, maybe I should get on this train too. And there's some great stuff in there. I mean, not just the Miyazaki stuff, but some other stuff out there too. So, but be that as it may, a lot of great stuff out there. Before we leave, let's let them know where they can find you guys to follow you and hear all the great words and all the things you type come out. So Bonnie, first, let them know where you're at.
Well, I've got a bunch of outlets going right now. I'm on Sirius XM, The Breakdown, channel 167. You can hear all my thoughts, and all my interviews air on there. I have my own website, smartentertainmentgroup.com. I also write for originalsin.ca, CH Morning Live. So there's lots of places where you can find me.
All right, and then Scott.
Yeah, I regularly appear in The Hollywood Reporter and Variety, if you follow the trades in Los Angeles. I also write for People Magazine and People.com, so you can see me there. And comicbook.com, popculture.com, those sister sites, I'm a regular contributor with them. And you can follow me at The Huve on both Twitter and Instagram.
That's fantastic. Well, I want to thank you both for coming on. I hope you guys had fun. Like I said, this is a brand new show, so we are trying to enjoy ourselves as much as we can and, talk about some geeky / movie topics. So it's one of those things where right now I kind of want to get away from the politics of it all and just have some fun conversations. I want to have arguments that we can still smile at the end about, as opposed to the politics of everything that is happening now. So that's kind of my take on it. And then we still do talk about things that are happening in Hollywood too. So I want to thank you again for coming on. Scott, Bonnie, you guys are amazing, and I hope you will come on again in the future. But until that time, have a great day and enjoy everything you are watching. And for the fans, please follow them. Until next time, this is You're Wrong, and here's why.